McDonald's, In-N-Out, KFC, Chili's, Applebee's, Chipotle. These restaurants are using a toxic ingredient that may be worse than drinking 14 bottles of alcohol a week, physical inactivity, sugar, processed meat, bad air, red meat, smoking 7 cigarettes a day, and nearly as bad as severe obesity. In this video, I'll explain why vegetable oils became so popular, why vegetable oils may be so bad for your health, what we can do to fix this problem, and what you can do to fix this problem. Humans have a long history of using oils to cook their food, but I'm here to make a distinction between two types of oils. The ones that have been used for thousands of years and the ones that haven't. People have been using olive, coconut, avocado for thousands of years, and these oils don't have the same concerns as modern vegetable oils. Time and time again, extra virgin olive oil has been shown to be beneficial for your health for its high amounts of antioxidants and its great anti-inflammatory benefits, and its lower oxidation compared to other vegetable oils. We'll get more to oxidation later on, but it's very important. A lot of these things can be said for avocado oil and coconut oil too. Just know, when I'm talking about vegetable oils, I'm not talking about these. The main oils I want to look at in this video are the highly refined, recent vegetable oils. Why can't I say oils? Oils like sunflower, safflower, canola, soybean, corn. These are the problematic oils. These oils have only been used for about 200 years and have only been widely adopted in the last 60 years. But why is this? Because beforehand, the widely used substances, in America at least, were beef tallow, butter. First big thing that I found is that the government subsidizes wheat, soy, and corn to massive degrees. The amount of money that the government puts into subsidizing corn production is one of the main reasons why companies keep trying to find more and more ways to take advantage of corn. This is why high fructose corn syrup is so popular, because corn is subsidized to such a high extent that it's more efficient and cheaper to use high fructose corn syrup to get the sugary taste than to use actual sugar, which is more expensive. So when a company called Crisco was able to find a way to turn cottonseed oil into margarine, companies saw an opportunity in order to have a more cost-effective, cheaper alternative to butter, olive oil, or beef tallow. The history of Crisco is kind of funny, where a guy got lots of cottonseed oil to heat and light lamps in the past. But then after Thomas Edison created the light bulb, there was not a real reason for lamps or cottonseed oil anymore. And instead of just taking the L and moving on, like what great businessmen do, he tried to find a way to take advantage of cottonseed oil in another way. And that's how we eventually got Crisco and margarine. The stuff was made from hydrogenated oils, which, without getting too sciencey, is basically where you combine unsaturated fats from those of safflower, sunflower, cottonseed with hydrogen in order to partially or completely convert the fat into saturated fat. And that's how you can get liquid oils. However, these oils were absolutely horrible for health, which I'll get to much later. But as of now, companies saw this as cheaper, and thus many restaurants, corporations switched over to using hydrogenated oil, switched over to using these new vegetable oils. This is quite a common thread in American history. Our corporations is what gives us our wealth, progress, and options, but also many of the health effects and safety problems we have. But some companies stayed true to their roots. The biggest among them was McDonald's. The classic McDonald's French fry taste, among many things, was the result of a frying ingredient the company used: beef tallow. Scared that switching to vegetable oils would harm the taste of their food, McDonald's was not going to switch. This was until the 1990s, when American businessman Phil Sokolofs changed McDonald's forever. Phil suffered a heart attack in 1966 at the age of 43 and was utterly convinced that saturated animal fat was the cause of the attack. He spent over $3 million of his own dollars advertising on newspapers all across the country. The advertisements centered around campaigning for McDonald's and other restaurants to remove high saturated fat items from their menu. He then went about making the American Heart Savers Association in 1985, which is still around today. And in 1990, Phil was successful, as McDonald's announced that they would be removing beef tallow and replacing it with vegetable oil. On a little tangent, people hated the taste of McDonald's fries so bad after this that soon after, McDonald's added a beef tasting mixture into their frying ingredients. And so, while technically there's no beef involved in making McDonald's French fries, when vegans and vegetarians eat the fries, they're basically liking the taste of beef. Anyways, his response to the McDonald's announcement was, I can't say we're gonna tear down the golden arches by the year 2000, but I am confident that by the year 2000, they are going to serve more healthful food. Ah, if only Phil knew what he was doing. Heavy smoking, defined in the study I'm referencing, is smoking 1 pack of cigarettes a day, which was shown to increase the risk of death by 80%. Pretty horrifying, and is why cigarettes are so widely regulated, and why so many people call for the complete banning of them. But interestingly enough, increasing vegetable oil intake by 12% of your total calories increases the risk of death too. Real quick, what do you think the number is? You don't have to comment or anything, I'm not gonna be like one of those guys. But just remember that number, okay? You got it? Well, increasing consumption of vegetable oils by 12% of calories leads to an increased death chance of 62%. 62%. All this data is from a 7-year tracking study where there were 2 groups. One group's fat mostly came from margarine and safflower oil, while one group's fat and oil mostly came from olive oil and butter. The study was only comprised of 458 participants, so don't treat the 62% number as gospel, something you're gonna hear me say a lot in this video. So this raises the important question: if vegetables are so important to human health, then why are vegetable oils so bad for human health? Well, first I want to talk about just hydrogenated oils. These are very bad due to their high level of trans fats. Trans fats are the worst types of fats. They've been shown to raise bad cholesterol and lower good cholesterol. And artificial trans fats are likewise linked to long-term inflammation, insulin resistance, and even cancer, especially for people with obesity or excessive weight. Polyunsaturated and monounsaturated fats oxidize much faster than saturated fats. And vegetable oils are comprised of almost completely just these unsaturated fats. Oxidation of oils, or in simplified terms, basically expiring and going bad, is very poor for health, as can be seen right here. Scientists have also hypothesized that too much omega-6 relative to omega-3 may contribute to chronic inflammation. Vegetable oils are comprised of entirely omega-6, and because our society nowadays is very low in its omega-3 consumption due to many of the foods high in omega-3s not being widely consumed, this could mean the proliferation of vegetable oils will be negative to health. But, and there's always a but, these results are not consistent between studies, with many studies finding no correlation. So it is something to worry about, but something that needs a lot more science done. One thing we know for sure though, is that these oils are commonly used to fry foods in restaurants and at home, and are often repeatedly heated, which is a huge problem because these oils are already sensitive to oxidation, and repeatedly frying them speeds up the process dramatically. The compounds caused during oxidation can cause major cell damage and harm to overall health, which is just another reason to add to your list to avoid fried foods. And according to this study right here, both monounsaturated fats, or MUFA, good fat, and polyunsaturated fats, PUFA, bad fat, has similar negative impact on postprandial testosterone levels over a 5-hour period. A 5-hour period may not seem bad, but if a man is consuming vegetable oils for all 3 meals, which is full of both PUFA and MUFA, then this could be more of a permanent effect. You ever heard of saying that too much of anything is bad? You know, they always talk about if you drink too much water, that can be bad. Well, vegetable oils are a huge part of the American diet. The average American, according to totalhealthwellness.com, consumes around 5 to 10 tablespoons of vegetable oil a day. According to one article, 1 tablespoon of vegetable oil is around 120 calories. That means that the average American consumes around 600 to 1200 calories of vegetable oil a day. That's a big increase in a very short amount of time. And so it goes without saying that Americans are probably consuming too much vegetable oil. But, some may say, vegetable oils are very low in saturated fat content and very high in the unsaturated good fats. Well, saturated fat has gotten a bad rap over the past 40 years and has been viewed in a very negative light, but recent research has come out in the last 10 years that is making many experts question the reputation of saturated fats. For example, a 2016 review found that full-fat dairy may have a neutral or protective effect on heart disease risk. A 2017 study found that there was no correlation between saturated fat intake and mortality risk from cardiovascular disease or any death. The researchers also found that higher saturated fat intake reduced the risk of stroke, and the researchers found that high carb diets had an increased risk of death. Let's go keto! So a 2020 study found that there was many inconsistencies in the research of the AHA, such as no link between heart disease and saturated fat. The authors concluded that there needed to be much more scientific research before concluding that, as the AHA recommends, keeping saturated fats below 6% of daily calories. To sum up this section, we know that hydrogenated oils are bad, very bad, no doubt, but are increasingly rare given that the FDA has banned artificial trans fats since 2020. The non-hydrogenated versions of vegetable oils are a much more complicated mess. We know that oxidation is bad, and that constantly reusing these oils over and over and over again leads to increased amounts of oxidation, such as fast food places where fried foods are fried in the same oil time and time again. Vegetable oils are a large part of the American diet and probably need to be shrank as a percentage of total daily calories. And the opinion experts have on saturated fats is growing increasingly unclear, moving away from a strong negative stance. Vegetable oils may not be bad. Many reputable sources, like the AHA, say that saturated fats are worse for you than unsaturated fats. Of course, I just talked about why the evidence is unclear, but we do know that too much saturated fat is bad for you. And vegetable oils can be an easy way to reduce that. And thus, a lot of the positive effects that researchers have found of vegetable oils are heart problems. Multiple studies of 2,000 to 3,000 participants found that vegetable oils reduce the risk of cardiovascular problems. Harvard experts state that the oxidation of vegetable oils are not a problem in home cooking, where oil is frequently changed, but that at restaurants where oil is constantly reused, this is a major problem. And much of the bad rap that vegetable oils get are because they are so common in processed and deep fried foods, which are just bad for everything. You could deep fry an apple, and even though an apple is really good for you, it's gonna be bad because it's just fried. That's really all I got for this section. I couldn't find a huge amount of studies in support of this, but it was clear that there was a lot of studies talking about how vegetable oils are very high in the good fats and low in saturated fats. So here's everything we know at the end of this video. Sugar is bad. The biggest problem with vegetable oils is that there's just not a lot of research. There's not a lot of conclusive things that we know. Because they're so recent, we haven't had a century to study these things. Real studying has only happened in the last like 20, 30 years. There's a lot of 500-person studies that say that vegetable oils are bad. The only problem being with these studies is that they're 500-person studies. But on a serious note, here's what actually can be said. Constantly reusing the same oil to fry foods is not good. We consume a lot of vegetable oils. And with these three things in mind, which may not seem like a lot, there are many things that we can do. We need to really take into consideration regulating restaurants and how they use vegetable oils. Maybe you don't have to switch your oils every time because that will be seen as radical, but at least have a certain amount of times that needs to be switched out. Like let's say every 3 times it needs to be switched out, which I'm guessing there's already a rule that you need to switch out your oil after like 20 frying sessions, but that just seems like too high of a number. But of course, don't expect this to go swimmingly because how the FDA handles things that are literally toxic to you, like lead, is that your water is allowed to be toxic, but just not too toxic. And there are many things that you can do at home. When at home, use butter or olive oil instead of vegetable oils. Even if vegetable oils aren't Satan himself, we already consume so many vegetable oils from eating out that using avocado, olive oil, butter is a way to equal out the amount of fats that we're getting from different sources. Reduce the amount you eat out. This is just good health advice, given that restaurants don't care that much about you being healthy, given profit comes first. So just add this to another reason not to get Big Macs. And learn that food research is not very clear on anything. This is something I've especially learned researching for this video. But we don't really know how what we eat affects us. We know sugar is bad for you, but that took decades to find out and years and decades of propaganda to overcome. The more I research food, the more I just think like, wow, I don't know how any of this stuff is affecting me. And I always have that little voice in the back of my head where I should just go back to what my ancestors like 10,000 years ago were eating. But I'm not at the Liver King yet. But it is a good recommendation to stay away from processed food, junk food, and desserts, because that's what we know is bad for you. And stay away from plastics. As I've done more research, I've realized that plastics not only hurt the environment, but there are actually millions of particles of plastic in your bloodstream right now, and it's affecting human health in major ways that need to be taken into serious consideration. Watch a video over here on how there's plastic in your blood and it's affecting you. And don't forget to reduce the amount you eat out, drink some olive oil, and think better. I'll catch you over in my plastic video right here.